Hello and welcome to What's the Word, Windsor, the official podcast of the town of Windsor. I'm Benjamin Boddicker, Creative Services Supervisor, and we're glad you're tuning in. Today, we're honored to welcome our first guest, Stephen Garrison, Windsor's Chief of Police. We'll be learning more about him, community engagement, and what's ahead for the Windsor Police Department. Now, let's turn it over to your host, Visual Media Coordinator, Kira McKinley.
What's the word, Windsor? I'm your host, Kira McKinley, and I'm here with our one and only Chief Garrison. Thank you for coming on today.
Yeah, my pleasure. What a great honor to be on the first podcast for Windsor. Awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's great. I think that you're a very awesome first guest for us. You have a very deep background in this wonderfully niche and prevalent field, so I'm extremely excited to dive into all that with you.
Yeah, let's get to it.
I really want to know a little bit more about your background. You know, I know you came from Orlando, right? Yeah. Were you there for most of your career before coming here, or how'd that work out for you?
Yeah, so I started my career really early on at 19 years old. And really because of an incident that happened when I was going to the University of Central Florida.
Oh, wow, okay.
And so what happened was I was staying at the dorms, and it was a weekend. I was coming back from shopping or something like that.
Yeah.
And a patrol car shoots across all the lanes of traffic with its lights on. We all stop. Police officer jumps out, draws his gun, starts chasing someone near a convenience store, goes into a small wood line, and I was absolutely blown away by it.
Yeah, wow.
Never seen anything like that before. And, you know, you see it on movies and TV, but never in real life. And so I go back to the dorm, and I'm looking to try and find out what happened, and found out that there was a robbery by the store. This police officer saw the bad guy. He goes to chase him, goes into the woods. So I start telling all my friends about it. And their reaction was completely different than mine. And I was kind of stunned by it. And they were saying things like, "Oh my gosh, I would never do that," or "That's scary,"
Yeah.
or, you know, "I wouldn't be a police officer." And I remember thinking to myself, like, why wouldn't you chase him? You rob somebody. And it really changed everything for me. And originally I was going to UCF for computer science, and I started rethinking kind of my whole life's direction.
Yeah, that immediately intrigued you. That's
Yeah,
wonderful.
and you know, so it's one of those things where you have that moment in your life where you go, I really want to do something that's greater than just myself, thinking about myself, you know, do some things for others. Because it made sense to me that if something bad happened to someone, you would do something about it. And so that's really when I decided to go into police work. But I was so young, and so I started looking into it, and I found out that you could self-sponsor yourself at the time. This was back in the 80s. It sounds super old when I say that, but
It's not that.
It's only 40 years, you know.
Yeah.
It's not too bad.
everyone says I look younger than my age. So.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, so I found out you could self-sponsor yourself because no one wanted to sponsor a 19-year-old in the academy, and they had this program where you can kind of pay your own way.
That's very impressive that you did that.
Yeah,
At 19.
Well, I had to move back with my parents, which was odd.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be a police officer and go live with your parents. And then I went to the academy, and then I started looking for a job. And this was, I went to the academy in 1987. And then in 88, I got out, and I started looking for a job, and really no one wanted to hire a 19-year-old. And I kind of talked my way into a job at the St. Augustine Beach Police Department.
That's great.
Yeah, I was getting a little discouraged, and one day I decided, you know, I'm going to put on my suit, the only one I had at 19, and I went down to the police department, and I walked in, and just a series of events where the assistant chief who does the hiring, it's a little small town department, there was only 6 police officers. Well, he happened to be covering the front desk for the lady who was, handles all the front desk work, and she was on lunch or on a break. So I approached him and I said, "Hey, I'm an applicant. I just wanted to stop by, see if there's anything you need or if I could talk about the position." And he's like, sure, come on back.
Wow. I think that's a testimony to how just valuable communication skills are and being that go-getter. That's, again, just so impressive. You had that initiative at 19 to do that.
It was the only way that, in hindsight, that I ever would have started at that age. And since then, I think they've changed the law. You have to be 21. But
Okay.
but I went in the back, and I, for about an hour, kind of talked my way into being a police officer. And so they hired me. So I started there in 1988. I worked there for a year, and then I went to the Daytona Beach Police Department, which was, as a young man, very interesting. NASCAR races, bike week, spring break, all these big events. And but at some point in time, I realized if this is going to be a real career, and then eventually I'll have a family and kids and stuff, I maybe don't want to raise my kids in spring break central.
And that is spring break central.
So,
it really is.
It was at the time for
Yeah.
sure. And so everyone said, go to the Orange County Sheriff's Office in Orlando. And so I applied there and got to work, got hired at that as a deputy sheriff. And I worked there for 33 years. So, so total I was probably in the 36-year range.
Wow.
And as being a police officer before I came to Windsor. And, Orange County Sheriff's Office, big agency, have about, I think they're authorized today around 1,800 deputy sheriffs and probably another 1,000 civilian staff. So big metropolitan, Disney World, theme parks, second largest convention center in the U.S. UCF, I think, by population is one of the largest universities in the country. So a lot of activity, 75 million tourists a year come through the county, high volume, metropolitan area.
Yeah.
So
It's massive. I'm actually going to be there next week. This is where my boyfriend's from. But
going to Disney, I'm sure.
No, not during July. It's going to be hot. I was like, I don't know if I can handle that. But the beach, Cocoa Beach area. But I mean, the first time I was there, I was like, this is just so massive. Like you said, I didn't really, I think, quite comprehend just like the level of tourism, let alone the amount of people that live there, because NASA's there and SpaceX is there. And it's just so impressive looking at that work that you did. I can only imagine the things that you've had to do because of just like the amount of people that are already there, amount of people that are traveling in, and there really is just so many attractions. What would you say was kind of like a pivotal experience like during your time at Orange County?
That's kind of a tough question because it depends on the type of experience. So I was the high-risk incident commander at the Pulse nightclub active shooter incident.
Oh, wow.
And at the time, that was the worst active shooter in the history of the United States, where 49 people were murdered that night, and then another 53 were injured. And so, that was a significant event in my career. But there were also other things. I was on the SWAT team there. I was in charge of all special operations, so hostages, barricaded gunmen, things like that. And then there's the regular police work. I was in charge of all the detectives for the sheriff's office and all the investigations. So you can imagine everything from homicide to getting your lawnmower stolen. We handled everything. In that position. And so it was unique also at the sheriff's office because they had a lot of specialty units. So I had mounted patrol, K-9, Marine patrol. We got to ride in airboats, ATVs, all those things. So I had a great career there where you could do just everything under the sun, which really helped me here in Windsor because I have this experience that I can draw on with every facet of policing. And so that's, I think that's one of the benefits of while Windsor's not Orlando, is having this kind of library of experience that I can bring to it.
Definitely very, very lucky to have you. And I think as a growing town, as you said, we're nothing, to the size comparison over Orlando, but having someone like you with this wide range of experience is incredibly valuable for us. Why did you choose Windsor? It's obviously a big switch. What brought you here?
Well, I think anybody that's been through Windsor will tell you that it's a fantastic town. I love it here. I tell my wife, I was like, we should have done this long ago. I had a friend in high school that moved out to Colorado Springs. And when we got out of high school, my first trip on a plane by myself was to come to Colorado.
Oh, wow. Look at that invisible string. I love that.
And so I would come out often and visit. So since the 80s, over the years, it just was my favorite place to come to. And then when I got married, coincidentally, my wife loved it also. So we were constantly coming out. And as I was nearing the end of my career at the sheriff's office, we were actually out in this area looking around at property. And, we're trying to decide where we're going to relocate permanently or buy property, the normal stuff. And because we were out here so much and we loved it. And then coincidentally, right after we were in the Fort Collins area and in Windsor on our last trip, as most executives do at big agencies, we get recruitment stuff.
Oh, nice.
I get this recruitment flyer from Windsor.
You're like, man.
Yeah, it's like, oh, we were just there.
Yeah.
And so I'm reading through it, and I'm reading all the things, the values of the town, the police department, what they're looking for, and I'm like just checking boxes. I'm like,
yeah,
yes.
Perfect fit.
Yeah, and it doesn't happen that way because, as I mentioned before, you get a lot of stuff from recruiting agencies, and you read it and you go, yeah, that doesn't work.
Oh, really?
And then you just you kind of discard it. But Windsor is like every single thing I'm looking at.
Yeah, because I imagine you have to like kind of compare it to your personal values as an officer too, right?
Yeah, because that's the thing is, it has to be, the chief has to be a good fit for the community, but the community has to be a good fit for me. If we're not aligned, then I'm not going to be effectively drive the police department and align it with the direction of the community.
And that's something too, like, it's not just a regular job you're looking at, you're really comparing it with your values, which is not something I know I'd immediately think about when you're applying for a job like that. You'd assume, I think, that they would have similar things, which I'm sure they do. But what made Windsor unique in its values that specifically aligned with yours in that way?
Yeah, for me, my career has always been about service. And, when I was ending my career, I was thinking about, okay, I have over 3 decades of experience at a pretty high level, and is that just going to all go away? So I'm going to move to Windsor and as a retiree, and then not offer anything back. Yeah. And it just seemed strange to me. I couldn't come to grips with it. It's not that I necessarily wanted to just continue to be a police officer, but just my entire life since I was 19 is just about serving constantly. So I really didn't know anything else, and I was just trying to struggle, like, well, what does the next chapter look like? And so the ability to come to Windsor and then serve the community, because I'm a resident here, and serve in the community that I'm a resident of, was exactly what I wanted. And I think the values of Windsor itself is a community that's close-knit, that has great family values, that is supportive of the police department and public safety, and understands the value of all those things and how they work together to make a great community, which is why everybody wants to come here.
Mm-hmm. I mean, very unique values, like you said. I love that you pointed that, especially the family values. And it's so cool to hear how you just have always had this desire to serve and wanted to continue that with us. And we're very lucky to have that. I was wondering too, like, what are some specific things you have in mind for your time here? What are the plans?
Yeah, Windsor is a growing community. Obviously, I think everyone knows that, and And that's kind of, I think, what I bring as kind of an advantage in from the outside, in that I've seen growth. I understand what high volume and things are like that. So as we grow, it allows me to kind of avoid some pitfalls that you get with the growing pains. And because I've seen that and I can kind of project it, so that allows me to be more proactive in guiding the police department and public safety, because there's so many paths that you can go down. So I can prioritize that, I think, a little bit better, and knowing that 10 years from now, this will be an issue unless we start to address it and build a foundation today. And so I can avoid some of those pitfalls in there. So
That's great hindsight.
Yeah, and and I think every chief executive, when you come into a new organization, you're going to look for to build a strategic plan. So you're going to do gap analysis. You're going to look for what are our current capabilities, what are our future capabilities, and then decide what are the priorities. And is the police department adapting to the growth and the direction, and not just adapt to it, but align with it. So are we going shoulder to shoulder with the direction of our elected officials, our mayor, our town manager, of what the community wants? And so it's kind of my job to make sure we have that alignment. So this first year is really that's what I've been doing, is assessing, evaluating, and then making sure we have alignment with it.
I love that you said alignment. I think that's beautiful, because I think as a town, that's a holistic value we have is growth, but that's just not the only thing that we do. The second step is the alignment within that growth. So it's really cool that you said that. What are some specific ways you've been doing that, or are look forward to do that within this next year?
Yeah, so there's some core things that you always do. I mean, we look at our policies, our procedures, training that we have, and then how does that work in relationship to that alignment? So one of the things I immediately did is I assigned a full-time training officer to the police department. That's how we're going to provide excellence in service, how we're going to ensure that our officers are trained at a high level and continually growing so that we're meeting the needs of the community. And it's also how we meet the needs of the officers. Officers want to be trained. They want to develop in their career.
Yeah.
They want to do better, just like anybody else.
Yeah, you want to grow.
Yeah. And so, assigning that training officer was kind of one of the first things I did. And so then the other thing is, doing that evaluation of not just the policies, but learn the people. So I met one-on-one with every single employee.
Wow,
in the
that's
department.
So great. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was great. And for me, it was understanding the people who are doing the job. And the only way you could do that is to get that. And for me, coming from a big agency, I could never do that before, because I had hundreds of people that worked for me, and I was never able to do it. So here at Windsor, when the opportunity came up, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm all in.
I love that you jumped on that too. And I think that we really do, like, holistically, again, have a good community within the town. And that's wonderful that you're fostering that within the police department. I'm sure they appreciated that so much. That must be, like, so cool to see you personally interact with all of them.
Yeah, it's we have to get to know each other, right?
Yeah.
So,
spending a lot of time together, I am sure.
Yeah, for sure. And
Especially in stressful situations.
Yeah.
yes, we get policing is different in that you have to put on these different hats. So when you have like a critical incident or whatnot, it's a little more autocratic. Kind of giving orders because people's lives and time is critical. But when that's not happening, then you want to ensure that our people are the ones that take care of the mission of public safety. So we have to have the people to do the mission. The mission is the priority of public safety, but without the people there, then we can't do it. So I always say, and I kind of stole it from the military, is mission first, people always, and that's kind of my view of kind of how we do things. And so we have to make sure that the people have the training, the equipment, that we're connecting with them. They have what they need to come out and do the job, that they're not worried about, a broken keyboard or something like their computer's not working. I want them to come in, focus in on the job that they're doing, and go out and engage with the community, do law enforcement.
Like everything is set to go. And I love that it really seems like, you have these technical orders down, these good foundations, and having that is very important because that'll bleed into how they interact with the community and all that good stuff. How would you want the community to view your officers and your guys' relations with them?
Well, in Windsor is actually unique in the level of support the police department has. And, particularly coming from the outside and interacting with other agencies over the years, the town of Windsor really supports the police department. I think that was apparent during the grand opening of that incredible police department.
Oh, that was a wonderful day. That was beautiful.
Yeah, and just tons of people showed up, and it was fantastic. And so, I view that as it's a gift, and it's something that, we as the police department can't take for granted. We have to continue to nurture it and grow it and be a part of not just taking the support or accepting it, but a part of kind of giving back so that we keep it going. And so, for me, how we interact with our residents, the time we spend with them, taking not just, say, a report and then shooting off to the next call or doing something, but spending the time to try and follow up and do those little things so that the people can understand, whether you're a visitor or a resident, understand that the police officers are trying to do their best for you.
And the little things just become the big things, right? That's what's going to really build that public perception. And I like that that's the point you're coming from. That's wonderful. And on the citizen side, I guess one plug I want to put it is, how can they interact with you guys? If they want to feel proactive about getting more involved or getting to know more about the town and your guys' initiatives, what can they do?
Yeah, we have probably the best program in that we're asking people to connect with our investigations division, and there's a link on the website for it where you can voluntarily let us know if you have, let's say, a Ring doorbell or a security system or things like that. And while I can't talk about the details because it's an active case, but I think most people know there was an arson in one of the parks.
Yeah.
And we were able to solve that through the cooperation of the community by providing us some information because of that connection. So the more we can do to have people sign up for the program and whatever it is that you have available, just to let us know so that if something happens in your neighborhood, we can ask you for it and say, hey, something happened in your neighborhood. Would you have any video or evidence or any information you could provide us so that we can help run down, this crime or whatever happened? And so that program is a big part of what helps us reduce crime. Windsor, I think, is a low. Well, I know it's a low crime area, but I think it stays low because the people here are involved. They understand that public safety is a big key to having great quality of life, and you have to be an active participant in that. And as a police department, we can make incremental progress on fighting crime and going after bad guys, but we don't make real progress unless everybody's involved.
And that massive community involvement is so great with, initiatives like the Secure Streets program, like you were just talking about. I mean, that's very cool and unique. The fact that the community can directly send things that they have to you guys. I mean, and everyone has cameras these days, like, why not use them to help with things like the arson case? That's a very cool example, I think.
Yeah. And, if anyone thinks that not video around all the time, then
There is.
right.
Let's be honest.
And we know it is. And
Yeah.
so the ability to get that, and people, and there's no mandatory, we're not looking at anybody's stuff. This is strictly voluntary, being good stewards of the community to say, hey, I have something that might be helpful to keep my community safe, and here it is. And that's what we're looking for. We're not looking to attach to anybody's security system or doorbell or anything like that. Just have access to at least reach out to you and
Yes.
ask about it.
Yeah. And that's, again, a really cool initiative. I love hearing about how involved you guys want to be with the community and all of your values and all that good stuff. You really just have such a wonderful story, and we're very lucky to have you, especially at this tipping point of growth within the community. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you for sharing more with us today. It was really awesome to hear more about that.
Yeah, totally. So, and this is sincere. I love Windsor. Windsor, it's just been one of the best moves of my entire life. And so, I want to, give back and participate in the community and continue to have it the great place that it is today into the future. And, and that's the goal. And I think all of us want that. And by all of us working together, the police department, definitely the officers are out there wanting to get out there and continue to have a great place for their own families to live and where to work. We'll all accomplish that task by working together. And that's really the only way you do it. And that will propel us, way into the future.
That teamwork, teamwork is the key, as they say, right? And I love that. So thank you so much. Thank you for being on again.
Sure.
We do really appreciate it. And make sure you guys tune in to the next episode and follow along with more of What's the Word, Windsor.